Yo, what's up, man? Dude, holy crap. Stankster, Wesley, Massive Zen. Man, I haven't seen you guys in a minute. In a long, long minute, bro. Sway, what is up, dude? Treetop, man. Yeah, it's been a while, Mike. We're gonna get into it in this video. Gonna get real into it, man. AMC took a little hit here with the most recent catalyst. And yeah, man, I want to talk about it. Updated a few things, guys, on the caption below the YouTube section. So we'll cover all the socials and stuff like that. But yeah, on Twitter, I posted something about the cycle. So want to go over that here for sure. P95, what's up, man? It's going to be a lengthy video, bro. Spine AMC for sure. Yo, Matt, what's up, dude? All right, guys, so video is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to talk about the cycle, and I'm going to talk about the good and the bad, right? Because the last video we did talk about the good and the bad, right? Right now, AMC is definitely a lot more vulnerable than it ever has been, in my opinion, because of the cycle. Okay, now, let's pull up the cycle because it's gonna be relevant here. We got our lovely cycle. Now, cycle, guys, we go back to 2020, November 2020, when everything started, right? The cycle that we're following very closely right now is the one in November. So this entire section here, November 3rd through early January, is the first cycle, 62 days long. Now this section here is what I think we're following. We're following actually the entire the previous cycle as well. I don't have that overlaid down here, but this entire section here is what AMC is currently following, and it's following it pretty much to a T, guys. If you take a look at the levels, not only are we tracking the cycle, right, but we're tracking the structure of two cycles combined, and here it is overlaid, right? So this is what I posted on Twitter. It's this pattern, okay? So on the Discord yesterday, we went over this. I talked about it. I was going to make a video, and we took this entire section here. It's the same length. It's not manipulated in time. Like, you can take this yourself, overlay it on top, and you'll see it's a match, right? So levels are identical, dude. Look at this, right? Everything's identical. Now, the way, and we'll talk about the good and the bad here, guys, but the only way something like this would happen is if, and anything could happen in the markets, right? But the chances of something like this taking place, and this is just a volatility zone, so I'm not calling for $20 at all. If that happens, great. But for AMC to finally turn around, I think we need to see at least the 350 range by mid-April time. Because in these cycles, and we tracked this before we saw the inverse cycle in September, okay? Last year, August into September, we had an inverse POI. Anybody who shorted AMC here basically had 1,000% gain. And we have this major volatility zone coming up here where AMC can see the same thing happen to the downside or finally start climbing back up. It's gonna come down to these two. Really, these two. Yeah, I had some comments on that post yesterday. Like, yeah, sure, man, it can go up and down, but to this, volatility zones tracking major upside or major downside is crucial. So that's what's important here. It's not tracking like a long-term macro outlook where we slowly bleed to the downside. Like, this is tracking like a pretty major event because, well, we're inside the POI. So I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here on what could potentially happen if the price does start, trending down. And this is where we would see like an inverse effect take place, right? So previously, and this is the only other cycle that we've seen that inverse effect take place to the degree that it did. So let's pull this back up. We gotta go 4 hour and daily. Okay, so we're taking a look at this section right here. You can see as soon as we got to this red portion of the cycle, okay, the price started to flip. So it almost was tracking that inverse effect already. And this is what got pretty much everyone, right? Is you go into the volatility zone and the price starts to inverse squeeze. And this happened very quickly, obviously, inside the POI. You had a massive fake out, massive liquidity event in the after hour session, got shut down the next day, and then the following weeks we had this whole thing take place, right? So here we have kind of the opposite effect happening right now. It's following the cycle very well, and we are seeing that like this part right here is playing identical. We have the same direction. It's pointing downward now. And then following this direction, we have upside, right, in the cycle. Now, this is the playing the devil's advocate part, right, is that market cap is a huge indicator we have to track here. It's going to help us here a lot with what price doesn't show you, man. So this is what I am concerned about the most on AMC. Right now we're sitting at an $800 million market cap. Now, if you take a look at the chart, right, with splits, reverse splits, all that stuff, that makes up a regular trading chart, any chart, right, that has these splits. Market cap is going to be the most organic version of a chart, and I think it's really the one that shows where price can potentially go to because of historical levels. Historical levels on AMC's not organic chart, right, is showing that we're at all-time lows when that's just not the case. The all-time lows on AMC technically would be in this range back here with the market cap of 2020, where it had a $250 million market cap. That's just the average of that, right? The low was 100 million. So my concern is if we get to this POI and AMC does not flip to the upside, right? We're trading at $3. If it goes below that range and does not climb back up here on this POI, then there's a massive gap down here, okay, from 800 million to the bottom at 100 million. Now that is just that's an 8x move to the downside. If you do the math, an 8x move to the downside would be about 50 cents. And that's like, that's worst case scenario, but it's still something that I'm tracking here because, guys, we've seen this time and time again, right? Price goes down on these POIs if levels are not held. So that's what I'm paying attention to here. If the price starts trailing down below the $3 range, okay, looking at the current fractal or the pattern that we're tracking is already calling for a reversal here. So AMC can't really go much lower if it's going to complete this sequence. And if it starts to stray away, if you start to see this trend back down, it's just not wanting to come back up, the chances of it actually going lower are going to be a little bit greater because it's already straying away from the direction that this pattern is calling for. So both ways, guys, it can happen. AMC, this could be the AMC low, or it can come down to a pretty bad catalyst, whatever that catalyst would be, that would take AMC down even lower. Right. So those are the two things that I am paying attention to for this next move. Obviously, if the price remains in this range for the next few weeks, it goes up to 350. I think things are going to look real good for AMC right now that everything is getting ready to pump. Now, I'll talk about some of the positive things, right? Because what do we track normally when stocks like these are beaten down to these levels? We take a look at the overall markets, like what everything else is doing, right? And a few things that are looking good. All right. The cannabis sector is one major indicator that I am tracking, guys, for this AMC move here, right? Because, yes, fundamentals do matter. If a stock is going to zero, fundamentals definitely take a role in that. If it's a dying company that is consistently showing that, time and time again, and they're able to suppress the price, go down to the penny range and lower, right? You start dealing with, that 10, 25 and 25 cent and lower area. You're going to see probably some kind of delisting take place, unless the stock is just consistently rinsing and, reverse splitting back and forth, like Xella, Mullen, stuff like that. Those guys, that's just it's a money printing machine for the shorts, man. The consistently reverse splitting is just not a good thing. So that we're not dealing with that right now. We have one reverse split. That's it, right? The other ones are offerings. I think reverse splits are just nasty. They're worse. Just constantly diluting the retail shareholder. Now with CGC, okay, they did do a reverse split recently. Now these guys have been trailing down as well with AMC for quite some time. CGC, Tilray, you can see these guys really started to climb in 2020, and they peaked in 2021, February, a little bit after AMC and GameStop. So let's do Tilray. These guys are climbing back up, right? They're climbing back up. We also have some of the other stocks, OCGN. Pretty major one. This one goes to that 30-cent range, right? 30-cent range, same thing. In December 2020, going into January, this thing squeezes all the way back up. These guys are already ahead of the cycle. They're pumping here, and hopefully will continue this rally here, mimicking a little bit of what the crypto markets are doing. Let's pull up all in one. It's probably going to be slow because of... I wish TradingView had a little bit more power in the way that it picked up these indicators. The indicator here all in one, because it's loading 20 stocks, and then the one that I have here actually has 100. The crypto one's even worse, guys. It has like 200. And the thing is choppy sometimes because of how much code is this, TradingView is trying to run here. So here is kind of the outlook here of everything that's pumping, right? We have in blue here MSTR. Okay, so MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy, obviously in the crypto space, pumping like crazy with Bitcoin. We have Mara up again, OCGN here in green, CGC in green, Mara. Okay, so all these guys are pumping in this cycle. If you go back to 2021, we have a very similar effect prior to all stock squeezing. So right around this range here in November, going into the year 2021, you kind of have a similar effect taking place. Now in the cycle, we can definitely still be in that July area where you see these guys kind of pumping out of nowhere and then, consolidating back down. We're still not quite in a bullish market yet because we're coming back down from 2020, and then everything starts to pump like crazy, right? I still think this is going to happen one way or another. I don't think the markets are ready to come down at all. I think we're still in the early stages. Even if we were to come back down, guys, into that $500 range, that would just be a short stop. First step continuation after that for SPY. It's just looking real good. Now, all these stocks, again, with the correlation, show that back here that they had been also entering a accumulation phase, lasted a little while, and then went into advancing, very quickly advancing. So, and the reason I bring this up is because AMC, and actually both AMC and GameStop, we still don't know yet if they're entering accumulation or if they're going straight into a spring setup. Spring setup is a little bit different. I'll show you guys what a spring setup looks like. So Paramount is an example of what I think a spring setup would look like. You really never enter accumulation. You're in distribution the entire time, and then the accumulation phase is very short. It lasts, like for example, right here. It's just a spring, right? You don't really have accumulation at all. Just keeps going into advancing and then dump. So these setups are pretty nasty because they do tend to dump very quickly. And it just kind of shows that the chart is unstable, right? So not necessarily a good sign, not a good thing. But with GME and AMC both, okay, we haven't had stagnant price action really for a while. Stagnant in that it remains trading sideways for quite some time, right? These are still descending. So that's the whole thing, guys, with the setup right now. Sava is another one. This is one that has been accumulating, in my opinion, and looks a little bit just healthier to see some downside, in the end, because it has been trading sideways consistently for quite some time. So you can see a massive cup formation here in the making. So with AMC, it could be the case, right? We are definitely trading in a descending channel, but this descending channel is more stagnant than most distribution patterns, I think. Most distribution patterns are pointing straight down. This one seems like once it does pick back up and starts to spring to the upside, you're going to see a pretty nice wedge effect, right? Wedge effect breakouts like this that just pop. Okay, as most patterns that we're tracking right now look very similar to that, right? We have the NVAX still tracking. This one got moved a lot. I don't have the entire NVAX here. Where is it? Here it is. This got moved a lot, man. So here's the NVAX pattern. Okay, so a lot of differences between the two here, but a good thing about the NVAX, because NVAX is just a pump and dump machine. So here's the NVAX pattern versus AMC. Okay, so I mean, and they almost line up perfectly from each drop. You can consider this to be one of the, one of the highs since it is a volatility event. They either did a split here or the price actually, I don't think it fell to this extent. It's probably a split. Price comes down. We have a distribution. You can call it a redistribution phase, macro redistribution. Falls back down, declining, and then here it accumulates, but not really. It looks to be more, it almost looks more like distribution, and then it just kind of curls back up, turns around. So that could be the case for AMC, and that's the bullish case. Pretty much has always been, guys. We've been tracking the NVAX pattern since the drop here. The reason I started tracking this pattern was because of the data that showed this section down here looks very similar to this section right here, right? So this entire section here, and up to the, even what's going on down here, guys, we have a lot of correlation between the structure of the of this accumulation pattern. Definitely a lot of correlation with that. So that's why, man. That is why this is definitely a possibility. But again, guys, AMC has to turn around here. It really does. I would not like for it to, go below that $3 range. If it's a quick spring, great. But if you take a look at the last time or the last cycle we had on AMI, it does have to respect, have a similar structure of a pattern. We'll come back here. I believe 30 minutes is the max they have. Let's do one. From the peak, we have about 125 days from the peak. The peak here is, see how like the data is completely different, guys? This is kind of what I mean by what, like the two, like these are both on the hourly time frame, and there's just so much data missing down here on this chart. But it's partially because of it, TradingView not having all that data accessible. So that's why we have all these gaps. We got to fit them the right way just to kind of see exactly what's happening here. Now, in this, though, 125 days, bring the cycle back. Here's that. Again, this is where the cycle starts, pulling back the cycle. So we have two cycles here, guys. End of cycle, okay, starts right here and then goes into this cycle. Same thing on both. All right. Okay, so looking at the percentage is very important. One way to do that is using the changes indicator, not market cap. Okay, 250 is fine. Using 2 because we're on the hourly. So percentages, the POI down here was definitely experienced a lot more volatility than the one down here. The most recent one only experienced about a 40% move. We talked about this already. The low on the POI was accurate, right? And then the high was also accurate. It just did not go up the same way, right? In November, we had experienced at least that 100% rally on AME before being shut down completely. So, guys, ratio is very important. But if you take a look at both ratios, they're pretty accurate. I mean, we have this going up 40%, gets shut down about that 40% mark. And it's the same thing right here. It goes up 100 and then gets shut down to that 50. So they're both pretty accurate in that. Also, one of the things that we need AMC to do here is hold this range, because on this second bottom that we have, we don't quite come down to the lows, right? We get very close. And the chart's going to show us that it does come down below, which is the same thing AMC down here, but not the changes indicator. And that's what's important. So tracking both of these, this is more evidence, again, and showing that AMC is still holding these levels. As long as we hold these levels and start climbing up here, things should be looking good for more upside, right? More upside. All right, let me see. You guys have some questions. What up, man? Tickles, how you doing? You know what's kind of weird too? We did have a pretty major catalyst that almost fits the catalyst that we have received recently here. We had a catalyst early February, and then on the way down here, the most recent catalyst with Adam Aaron kind of lines up with the Mudrick. I think it was Mudrick Capital that we sold shares to or something, and then they added more shares. So it was like an offering right here, and they both fit, man. So kind of makes you wonder a little bit here if that is the case, because again, looking at market cap as a major like probably one of the most important indicators is the market cap one, right? So just looking at that market, even to the upside, guys, even if we were tracking it's like bullish market cap chart here, say like this, yeah, sure, this is a massive pump and dump, right? Do we have to come down to the all-time lows? No, we don't. The price can definitely reverse here if it wants to, right? Worst case, it does come down to the lows, and like I said, it unfortunately AMC would go down to the 30-cent range if it did hit that $1 million market cap. And this is really taking into, unless they did another like reverse split or some some BS like that, that would be the worst case. But if it wants to bounce in this range, that would be the extreme bull case. Is this is the low and AMC continues to climb after pretty much this week for the rest of time, and we just we keep seeing upside on AME after that. I mean, that would be the extreme case, right? But the all-time high for AMC is 31 billion. So yeah, taking a look at market cap, it would have to go up 31x for the for it to reach the 31 billion, which 31x on AMC where it's currently trading at is, and that's all-time high. 31x would be what? Tripping. I know percentages work a little bit differently, but it would be different though. It would be, what's 31x, man? I'm tripping right now. 10x would be 10,000, right? 31x would be 300 because of dilution. Yeah, so 120 would be the all-time high for AME. if it did come back up to those levels. That's how much it would take. I mean, that's a lot, guys. Thinking where the price is at. That's the ugly thing about dilution, unfortunately. The ugly thing about dilution is that, yeah, it hurts the retail investor a lot because of, but again, the shorts take that as the opportunity to short the price after these guys are done. Dilution offerings, anything like that is going to affect it. But technically, yeah, that would be the high for AMC if it does climb back up, which I think a lot of people are. This is just looking at the charts, this is like a mid-range in the way that the entire chart looks. Mid-range in that you can see it would be considered the left or the right shoulder on this sort of double bottom setup, right? We saw what's its face, Paramount do this, right? Okay, now Paramount does go all the way up. I think with AMC, if it bounced here, we started to see it, trend to the upside. Looking at it from like asymmetrical standpoint, it would probably take some time. You're going to see a lot of probably, volatility events, right, on the way up. But it would probably take some time to reach that area, right? We wouldn't see like a 1 or 2 day event where it just goes up there, right, very quickly. So yeah, guys, market cap, huge indicator. I'm curious to see what GME's market cap was before it had its squeeze. Yeah, it went in from 3 billion. Why is it not showing the rest? 2016, 3 billion down to 100. Okay, 100 million, and then very quickly 1 billion, and then it peaked at a $24 billion market cap. Interesting. 24 billion. Wow. So AMC actually had a greater market cap than GME. That's interesting. At the time of its peak in June. Yeah, by quite a lot. About 10 billion more. What other stocks? So yeah, a lot of the same stocks, guys, that were squeezing around the same time. They're trading at completely different market caps right now. I mean, we have Tilray is up at 2 billion from its high 20 billion. Let's see some of the really beat down that I don't like these stocks, by the way. I think these are like scam stocks, in my opinion, just because of how many reverse splits they've had. Anything that has more than like 2 reverse splits is already kind of a red flag. Why is it not showing them? This thing has had so many. Look at that. Three reverse splits. 1, 2, 3, dude. Same with Mullen. 3 in the last, guys. 3 in 1 year is a major red flag. 3 reverse splits in 1 year. Yeah, no. Mullen is like, guys, wow. Look at this. Taking a look at the reverse split, and guys, AMC is not didn't do this, right? If AMC does another reverse split, I don't know how it would come back from there, and that's me being fully transparent with you guys. I'm fully transparent with that kind of thing. I talk about both sides. Just looking at the charts, right? Stocks that have had reverse splits, there have been a lot that have came back up and have reached all-time highs again. So this is not a like a deal breaker. But if you start to see more than 2, definitely something to watch out for. Like, why are you guys doing reverse splits in the first place? Keep diluting. People just keep shorting. This thing's back at $4, and these like never come back up. They're almost like those cryptocurrencies that come up at like out of nowhere in like a really weird just exchange. I don't know, man. Those like pump and dump exchanges, because these are painful, dude. But yeah, AMC's had one. Hopefully it's the last one, right? Anyways, let's see what else we can track here, guys. Yeah, and throw in some questions if you have them. That's why I go live, man. I go live to answer questions, go over the charts, all that good stuff. I am live every day on the Discord. If you guys want access to that, click the link below. Talk about all the indicators and all that good stuff. We were just tracking here, and I recently added another few to the crypto indicators. But if you guys remember, also another thing that is like, you could call this a bullish thing for AMC and just the entire market, is what the crypto market is doing. The crypto market is, like we talked about back in the day, guys, gold was like, and it's kind of funny that what's that dude, Michael from MicroStrategy just talked about this, right? That he was also comparing the Bitcoin setup, right, to what happened in the technology revolution, right, of 1980, 85, around there. And it's kind of funny that that's now the talk, because I think it's true that that Bitcoin pattern we've been tracking with gold, dude, almost is tracking to a T. And that is just amazing, dude. Just amazing how stocks work. Stocks and crypto, man, it's just crazy how these patterns work. So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit here. With now this current downside, I am tracking just some small downside on crypto right now, but it should only last a few days. So we'll talk about that here as well, but let's talk about the Bitcoin setup with gold, man. With gold, so here is gold in 1975. This was the peak, or the peak. If you take a look at comparing the market cap of gold in 1970, taking into account inflation. Now, I asked ChatGPT. I was like, "Yo, give me the inflation." Obviously, back then the market cap was a lot lower, but it would have been about a $1.2 trillion market cap, which is the same thing that Bitcoin had here in 2021. And it just, it makes you wonder, man, like if this whole thing is actually just part of the agenda. But look at this, guys. So we started tracking this, back in, I believe, July of 2023. And up to this point, it's been following this pattern here, like to a T, man. And right now you can see that it's getting ready to maybe come back down very quickly and spring. We might be right in this sequence here in April. Line it up here to April, where it starts to climb back up. But we could also be, I'm going to come here on the daily, could definitely also be right here. And I think this is probably more likely, is that we're just coming back down to the 65 range before, curling back up and continuing this rally. Probably get very close to the, 80, 90K range. potentially even have a close wick that gets close to 100 before a pullback. That's just my opinion. If things were to come down in the short term, which is also a possibility, and we've been taking a look at Mara here for the last few weeks, if that does end up happening, then that's just going to be another opportunity, I think, for the crypto markets. If this does come back down into that 50K range, as we saw here with this gold pattern, does it once it crosses the all-time highs, which we just did. Does it once. So if it does it, we're going to get very, very quickly come down into that range, consolidate for maybe a week, and then continue the rally to the upside. I do think that Bitcoin is getting ready to see some pretty nice gains, bro. Really with the entire crypto market. But yeah, look at this, guys. Crazy stuff, right? Bitcoin versus gold, 1975. Let's take a look at it down here. Look at that. AN. Look at all this data we have, man, with gold. 1998. Okay, we might have to go on the weekly. Nope, here it is. Now, mind you, things back then, a lot slower. Now we have, you have to kind of account the market speeds a little bit different. I think things definitely happen a lot quicker nowadays, but we're not even talking that far out. I mean, these two setups are nearly identical when taking a look at time as well. From the peak, 1975, to the bottom, it took 600 days. For Bitcoin, it took about 400. So we're not that far off in terms of time. Also, from the bottom to where it crosses, right? To where it crosses right here, it took about 600 days. From the bottom to where it crosses 500. Okay? For it to reach its all-time high, its peak, took about 1,250 days from the bottom to the peak. So because things are happening a lot quicker, I would, and taking into account the 200-day, we'll call it a 200-day gap between the two charts, I would say that on the 1,000-day mark, if this continues to rally the way it is, the 1,000-day mark would be next year in August. Next year in August, we would see that happen here, and then a pretty bad bleed for quite some time. So yeah, man, kind of checks out here with what maybe the entire markets are doing, because this is definitely like an indicator here to what, like, if the markets continue to trail to the upside here, you start to see everything squeeze. This might actually be a pretty bad market event in the coming years, actually, because this is where we had was a market crash of what, 85, following this this massive liquidity here in gold. Or was it? Yeah, the two were almost trading. Yeah, 1987 was like a major crash, right? But then everything corrected itself after that. Things can definitely play out a little bit different, but guys, I don't see a crash, man. I've been saying this for a really long time too. I don't see a crash happening anytime soon. We're going to see a full ass continuation. Continuation, man. Yeah, man. Bitcoin. Let's go to SPY. All right, so SPY is also looking pretty good right now. This might just be a fake out. Again, see a continuation. If you go on the daily chart using the changes indicator, you can see that we're just riding on that fourth band. We haven't crossed below it. Until we cross below it, okay, I wouldn't see any major downside. Honestly, until we cross probably that first band, I wouldn't see any major downside. So if we take a look at the last time, I think we're somewhere in this range. If we take a look at the cycle back in 2021, this is why I'm comparing a bunch of the stocks, guys, that are pumping right now in this range, right? AMC and GameStop pumped right here, okay? If you take a look at both, this one hasn't even came down into that range yet. It almost has you thinking that if, in this April POI, markets might take a small breather to the downside, right? A small breather and then continue to climb back up, okay? So April POI is right here. If AMC starts pumping back up, okay, looking at both of these, riding that fourth band and then crosses briefly into the second band, right? Second band and then starts pumping back up. Another thing on the copycat indicator on the weekly chart, another copycat indicator, guys. This right here, okay, was, so I made this, I posted this in October 31st, 2022. So it's crazy to think that this indicator, guys, predicted the bottom. And not only did it predict the bottom, but it predicted up until right now. I mean, look at how accurate this is, right? We're on the weekly. It crossed on the spots indicator. We had a blue spot as well. And then it continued to rally up into the 530 range, which we're currently at, right? Up at this point, this is just an average of the price. So if we have a quick wick to 550, it kind of makes sense. Or maybe, 540 range before a pullback. But I do like this setup because it's calling for a pretty major market consolidation event, which would last years. I mean, we're talking choppy price action for 2 years, and then, anything can happen from there. Checks out, right? With the Bitcoin pattern, the majority of stocks that haven't pumped yet, a lot of those stocks that are in the small cap, mid cap sector tend to pump when the markets are choppy. They don't tend to pump when the markets are going up. The blue chips do. Nvidia, right? AMD, Apple, Microsoft, those guys are pumping right now. But when the markets start to trend down, those guys are going to be entering a distribution phase or a reaccumulation phase, one or the other, if this continues to go back up after that. And this is macro. So, guys, when that happens, I think this is going to be real good for some of these stocks that have been beat the way they are. And some of these stocks are starting to exit or enter accumulation to exit at some point. When they exit accumulation, they'll be getting ready to go into advancing, and then if the markets are going to take a major breather, then we're going to see them dump back down. I mean, it's just the market cycles are pretty insane the way they work, but everything trades basically in its own time, right? We just circle between accumulation, distribution, reaccumulation, redistribution. And yeah, man, unfortunately for AMC right now, it is behind the game. But yeah, if it turns around, man, it's just an opportunity. So some of the stocks, I'll give you guys an example of maybe two, so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about between these two. Accumulation. Here's Sava. So Sava I think is a stock that is going to climb up this year quite a bit. The patterns that we're tracking are showing a pretty good probability of this. I'll show you guys what we're currently tracking here. So this is accumulation, right, where the price trades between a channel back and forth. Never really shows that the direction is descending. Reaccumulation is what we call the projector pattern. It's where stocks tend to rally before they go into advancing. They start climbing back up. So with AMC, the projector pattern, the classic projector that we saw in May of 2021, it looked like this. And then right before it climbed up, right here, okay, that was the bottom, which did not come down to the previous low. So it is ascending. It is showing that the price is still bullish. For redistribution is the complete opposite. So it looks like this. And, you know, after exiting that stage, you do something like that. And then you create a new low at the bottom before continuing to climb back down. So it's the opposite version of that pattern. With this one, the difference between some of the other stocks that are, for example, in advancing in market cycles, for example, micro strategy. Let's put this up here. Okay, so in time, both of these are basically doing the same thing, except one is taking a lot longer. So the accumulation period for this one lasted a lot quicker. That was pretty much accumulation here. The reaccumulation for this one was a lot longer. It lasted probably a few years, maybe a year or a year and a half. This is a reaccumulation period right here for micro strategy. And then obviously advancing right here. Just goes, beats all-time highs, all that good stuff. Some stocks are still in accumulation, and the accumulation period is a lot longer. Some stocks are still in distribution, and some stocks are exiting advancing. Some of the stocks that I think are exiting advancing, NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA is getting close to exiting advancing. Okay, so this one accumulated down here. Okay, almost similar to the setup we talked about with AMC, where it doesn't quite show accumulation the same way because it doesn't trade between a channel flat. It's more of a spring. So this being a spring, we have a reaccumulation phase pretty much this entire section here because of how much volume and just percent changes is taking place on this. Well, you can call it a macro advancing stage too, and this just a pretty big reaccumulation. But here, guys, yeah, this is crazy. So if this starts coming back down while everything is pumping, yeah, it's exiting accumulation or advancing, and new stocks now start to enter advancing. New starts, you know, they just cycle. They're cycling back and forth. But yeah, blue chips, I think, are pretty much done. Pretty much done, man, for a little while. Let's see. Yellowstone volcano's gonna blow, bro. That would be like game over for the U.S. if that happened. That would be game over. Hopefully that doesn't happen, right? Oh man. All right, guys. I typically go live for about an hour, so I hope that this brought some insight, right, to just market structure, cycles, AMC, specifically AMC, right? We'll be updating this, obviously, in the coming weeks as we start to understand a little bit more of what the price is doing. But like I said, just a brief analysis here on AMC. Following the cycle, really want this to come back up into that 350 range. The time frame I'm giving it is 2 weeks. I think by mid-April time, if it's trading at 350, things are definitely going to look a lot better for AMC to see more upside in this next POI that we're tracking. So that is the bullish case. The bearish case is that it does not go up to 350. It trades in a range, continues to go lower into that $2 range. At that point, this was a vulnerable event just in general, right? We're waiting for the price to start trending up here. The fact that it broke down, already a vulnerable state, but again, benefit of the doubt, looking at the cycle, the levels are still tracking the same for the November cycle in 2020 to 2021. So as long as that keeps holding, we should see a turnaround. We'll see, guys, in the coming weeks. So thank you guys for coming in. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys on the next stream. All right. Bye-bye, guys.